All right.
Awesome. So hello, everybody. For anybody who's going to be joining us live as well as on the recording, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Alex Key, and we have Cristina Nilson in here as well. And today what we're doing is going to be starting up this interview series of the Minds of Insight. And so this is where we just have the chance to highlight the different people that are in this group, because we all have a fascinating story and we all have something to offer. And so I'm just really excited for this to get going on today with Cristina. And a little bit about her. We're going to be talking mainly around meditation and guided meditation. And she has been in yoga now for over 10 years. She has a 200-hour certification and a 500-hour certification, as well as a 50-hour, so 750 total. And I know that she spent an entire summer over in India getting back to the roots of where yoga started and getting her 500-hour there, which is so cool. And so she's been teaching for the last 5 years. She's currently out in Boston now, and what she focuses in on is Ayurvedic Yoga Therapy, which is really awesome. And she might be able to get into that just a little bit. And she's also been doing meditation now for the last few years, as well as leading guided meditations. And so thanks for joining us today, Cristina. I really appreciate it. And I just kind of wanted to start off, if you want to just go through and just give I know I gave a little bit of your story, just talking about, how yoga has kind of helped you out, maybe a little bit about Ayurvedic Yoga Therapy, and then transition on into where meditation kind of picked up in all this.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. So I started out as a high school athlete, and I absolutely hated yoga the first time I tried it, and I thought meditation was pointless. And over the years of beginning a practice of yoga that was basically really competitive with myself and very active and really hard, like a very challenging physical practice, I started to notice some healing benefits of yoga when I would take the time to stay in Savasana instead of moving around. And that's kind of how I started putting together pieces that, like, God can really speak to us when we take the time to move our bodies, but then to also take the time to get still and quiet. So yoga, Ayurvedic Yoga Therapy, meditation, it all started working together for me as a form of healing for myself, and also a way to help others start to find that inner healing within themselves too.
That's fantastic. I love it. And that's very cool. And so within meditation, you said you started off with it not being a bit pointless. What is this stuff? Like what along your journey did it prompt? I know that meditation and yoga go pretty well together. Is there anything that kind of happened in the last 3 years ago when you started meditating to kind of prompt that?
I think when I finally started becoming comfortable with meditating was when I started finally becoming comfortable with myself. I think before that, any yoga pose that required me to really sit with being uncomfortable and stay in a held posture for a long time. We all have poses that we resist, and that's what I'm talking about. Meditation was kind of that for me as well. And it wasn't until I started really being willing and I'm probably ready to do some inner work and start saying, like, okay, I'm, dealing with these things about myself that I don't like, but they're no surprise to God, and everybody has their stuff. Like, I'm not an exception, and I'm worth taking the time to face myself and figure out what this is and try to find love for me. So I think it was only at the point when I really started to accept myself that I became comfortable meditating.
And I think that that's what's really awesome, because I can definitely attribute a lot of different aspects of my yoga practice or my meditation practice to that as well. And like having to get that work done ourselves before we can kind of share that space with people, or even with, with ourselves, is definitely such a huge part of it. And I know that you have been doing yoga, teaching yoga, and then you also lead guided meditations. Was that, I guess I'll just ask, like, with the guided meditation and doing that and leading that for other people, is that something that you waited until you were ready to do, or was that something where you recognized the benefit for yourself and this is something that you also wanted to share with others?
Definitely, it was something that I started to teach once I experienced it for myself. I knew how to cue someone through Savasana and how to tell them to tell their bodies to relax, but basically I wouldn't guide the meditation until I actually came across Insight Timer. One of my really good friends recommended it to me. And I was like, yeah, okay, sure, we'll see. But I think I was having trouble sleeping or something. So I tried a Yoga Nidra, and it was transformational for my practice. But then after listening to a few guided meditations, I was like, okay, I think I can lead this in my classes, like, during the meditation portion of the yoga classes. And once I started, everyone loved it. I mean, that became the thing that people requested more of from me. And I was surprised because I prided myself on really challenging physical classes. So it kind of transformed my teaching as it transformed my own practice of yoga.
Wow, that's really incredible. And so do you still teach the power classes and that sort of thing, or have you noticed that because of that shift and people asking for more yoga nidra and meditation, do you notice that your yoga teaching also goes that way, or how is that working out for you now?
Yeah, my approach to teaching has totally changed, just as my approach to my own practice. It's no longer about feeling like you have no pain, no gain, which is not yoga at all. But it's much more a healing, nurturing practice, even when I'm teaching like a power vinyasa or whatever I'm paid to teach because there's some kind of a demand. I still bring in the healing aspects and the self-love and nurture, so that combined with doing like a lot of chaturangas, which are challenging and demanding on the body, we're also balancing it out with kind of the opposite qualities, which is where like Ayurvedic Yoga Therapy comes in, because it says we don't create balance with extremes, but we do create balance with opposites. So if we have a really challenging class, maybe it's heated and it's power and it's pretty demanding. At the same time, we're approaching it from a place of intentionality and loving kindness and compassion for ourselves, knowing when we do need to sit in child's pose and come back to the breath, and then also balance out all of that really strenuous asana and strength building power asana with more of a yin, kind of stretching out at the end, really gentle, definitely some guided meditation.
Oh, I think that's awesome. And like with the hustle and bustle of how fast life goes all the time, I started to find myself going from doing a lot of power and hot vinyasa classes to like almost only doing yin with only a couple things. And that, I think just being able to take our minds out of that and to be through something really just allows like kind of all the chips to get stacked in the right directions and really have a lot of progress in terms of calming our mind down. And I think that's awesome. So for the people of Insight Connection, this group that we have, there's a lot of talk about like, just being around more like-minded people. And what would you say in terms of people trying to maybe find a yoga meditation group, or, if they're looking for stuff on Insight Timer, like how would, I know there's a ton of different styles of meditation out there. So what would be like maybe top 3 things that you would say to look for meditation groups in person, or, meditations on the app?
Oh, that's a really good question. I moved recently and I've also been kind of looking for in-person community, and some things that I've been trying are going to different studios, feeling out spaces that feel kind of like home to me or like a place where I enjoy being. And then I would say being open-minded, even if you don't find a class that says yoga nidra only or guided meditation only. Maybe if you find a class that's a restorative yoga, there's probably going to be a lot of meditation in the class, or at least the minimum kind of 7-minute savasana time. And some of those classes like yin and restorative yoga can become like a moving meditation, which is really beautiful too.
That's awesome.
Maybe introducing it to your friends and saying like, hey, I've been enjoying doing this guided meditation. It's on an app. It only takes 10 or 20 minutes, but it's really relaxing, and I think it would be fun to get a group of people together and play one of these meditations on a loudspeaker and light some candles, in our living room. Like, get creative. Everybody needs it.
And I think that that's awesome. And that's like a really great way to start up building a community, is just, with the people that you have around you. And I mean, as that becomes consistent, I feel like that's when more people start to come into the fold, and they know that it's a real thing that's going on. Just kind of finishing up here, but I also wanted to know with meditation, there's just so many really cool things that can happen as part of our experience when we are meditating. And so in the guided meditations that you've done for people, is there anything that kind of like that people have experienced, or crazy stories, or like a vision, or anything along those lines that you've experienced from people who are in the guided meditations or the yoga nidras that you've done?
Yeah, there have been some really interesting experiences in group settings. Sometimes afterwards people will tell me like, I was flying, or I didn't hear anything you said because I was having this visualization. Or then they'll come up to me and say, when you said this, and I'll have no recollection, because I feel like I'm kind of channeling the Holy Spirit when I guide meditation, and that in that everybody kind of hears what they need to hear. But probably the most interesting experience was one time I was just guiding through, and it was like some kind of guided visual imagery. And all of a sudden, the energy in the room was really, really thick. And I looked around, and multiple people were sobbing. And I started crying. And I was like, what is going on? I had to like regain my composure. And then at the end, we kind of all talked in a group. We were sitting in a circle, and people just started experiencing the different healing that was going on for them during that time. So that was really powerful, and it's by far my favorite memory of leading it.
That's awesome. And what I hear there is like, there is something that happens within the collective, and you can do guided meditations on your own, but there is something about many people having the same experience at the exact same time that kind of allows for that release, or creates that space where that kind of healing can happen. And like you said, it kind of was a domino effect to the people that were in there, like everyone inside their own heads doing their own thing, yet really getting what they needed and being able to release and everything. That is so cool.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, that is awesome, Cristina. We're about at that 10-minute mark, so I want to just respect everybody's time, but really, really appreciate you coming on here and giving us a little glimpse into your world, as well as all the meditation that you've done. I know that you've done a guided meditation for us once, and we'll probably get another one on the books here in the near future. But thank you so very much, and I hope you have just a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. See you, Cristina.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.